If you want a divorce in England and Wales, you have to prove your spouse is at fault because of adultery, unreasonable behaviour or desertion. If your partner refuses to agree to end the marriage, you can't divorce until you've lived apart for 5 years.
Well, the current system, whereby very often couples have to allocate blame, can result in a more acrimonious divorce than is really necessary.
Under the new laws, a husband and wife will no longer have to blame each other for the breakdown of their marriage. Couples won't be able to deny each other a divorce, but to give people a chance to reconsider, they'll have to wait at least 6 months from start to finish of proceedings. Well, joining me now are Caroline Strawson, divorcee turned divorce coach, and Tim Dieppe, head of public policy at Christian Concern. Caroline Strawson, let's start with you. How difficult was it for you to get divorced? How traumatic was it?
Well, divorce is the second most traumatic life event you will go through, so already you know you're going to go through a traumatic time. And when I went through my divorce 9 years ago, I had to apportion blame to my ex-partner, and that immediately set the boundaries, it immediately set the battlegrounds, and I had to apportion that blame, which meant then family and friends almost in theory had to take sides because that's what we were doing. And then the kids were directly in the middle of all of that as well, because it was one person's fault, and I had to put that down. I didn't have any other option to do other than blame my ex-partner.
And did you feel that was having an impact on your kids?
Absolutely, because immediately when I had to do that, my children felt like they were almost in the middle of this battle, and it had a really detrimental effect on both my mental health and theirs.
Tim Dieppe, change is needed to help people like Caroline and her family.
Well, I think that what these proposals do is they allow one partner to unilaterally impose divorce on the other one for no reason whatsoever and just walk away, just say, I don't want this anymore, for no good reason. And I think that imposes down on that partner loss probably of the family home, probably of care of the children, probably of half their assets and so on. And is that really the right way to do it? And is that a fair treatment of people in terms of what it achieves? Doesn't it undermine the very nature of marriage and the vows that people have taken in it?
Caroline Strawson, that point about unilaterally allowing one half of the couple to end it?
Nobody enters a marriage to get a divorce. You know, we don't go down and make our vows and say that's it, we're going to expect to get divorced at some stage. But I think to say that it's, you know, there's no decision, it has to be down to somebody. If it isn't right, and it has to go down to how people feel with their mental health, and if they're not happy, why should they stay in an unhappy marriage, and why should they apportion blame to that?
And Tim Dieppe, that's not good for the children either, is it?
Well, actually, studies show that children prefer to have a reason. It's better for the children if they've got a reason for why this marriage has fallen apart. If it's just like, oh, it just fell apart as if by magic, nobody's fault, just, you know, the marriage just magically, the relationship fell apart, the children are then left wondering, you know, gosh, could any relationship just fall apart? You know, they're left with greater instability, greater insecurity than if they actually have a clear reason for why this marriage is falling apart that they can understand and relate to and then see, and that helps them to cope with the awful fact that their parents are separating and splitting up.
Yeah, again, I totally disagree. All the research suggests that children perform better at school, in friendships, if they have two happy parents, and that could be two happy parents separately. You know, all the research suggests, and again, the women that I work with who were involved when they were younger as children and their parents stayed together, and they knew that it was an acrimonious marriage, it reflects on their future relationships that they have as well. And for me, it's all about showing your children that your happiness, your self-love and your mental health is the most important in your life.
It's about removing the acrimony, isn't it?
There's no evidence that actually removing fault removes the acrimony. There's no evidence for that. Acrimony is going to happen anyway in the case of a divorce. How can you think this is going to remove the acrimony?
But if you're forcing people to blame each other, that's acrimonious, isn't it?
Well, it's better to minimise that acrimony so that that effect is minimised upon the children.
I want to minimise acrimony always, but I think divorce obviously is acrimonious. It's a relationship breakdown.
And surely that is why the new laws that legislate this will actually minimise how acrimonious a divorce is, because everything to do with divorce, broken home, all of that terminology is so negative, and actually it needn't be a negative. It's just people moving on and being happy with their life.
There's no evidence that it will make it less acrimonious to do it that way. And furthermore, there is a study that shows that children actually do better when their parents stay together, even if it is acrimonious, even if the parents are disagreeing and rowing and all that kind of stuff, they actually do better in that situation than if their parents split up. Because there's so much damage from parents splitting up. It's so challenging for the children to cope with.
So you're saying parents should stay in an unhappy marriage for the sake of their children, because that can have a massive negative impact on the children later on in their life.
Obviously, I'd rather they were happily married, OK, but I think that staying together for the sake of the children normally is better for the children.
But if they're not happy or there is abuse involved, are we saying in the old laws that for 5 years we have to get permission from somebody else to divorce?
No, abuse is false, so there's no change to that. If there's abuse, then that's grounds for divorce. The point is here, there's no grounds. Somebody can just break up the marriage for no reason whatsoever and just say, I'm off.
It's not no reason. If someone makes that decision to go down the route of divorce, it's not an easy option. We don't go into a marriage expecting to have a divorce.
It's making it an easy option, that's the point. And it's also penalising.
Who says it's
No, it is because there is no fault being attributed. You're just saying there's no reason, so it does make it easy.
Everything in our life we have to apportion blame and it has to be somebody's fault. It isn't about you actually being happy within yourself.
Not at all. What this does is just says it makes it easier for people to opt out of marriage for no reason whatsoever, and it penalises the person who wants to honour their marriage vows and wants to try and keep this relationship going, wants to try and do it for the children or whatever.
What about that point, the institution of marriage, that people will, knowing this law has changed, people will go into marriage without really considering the sort of sanctity of it, and it, you know, can split up at the drop of a hat?
I disagree. I think everybody who goes into a marriage doesn't go into it thinking, at some stage, I'm going to get a divorce. They go into it with all best intentions, but life happens. Things happen. People outgrow each other. People get married too young. People get married. Things happen. People's careers change. You know, just because they are saying, I don't want to blame that other person, does not mean that it's going to be less acrimonious or, you know, it's got to be about what is right for the children.
Yeah. Caroline Strawson, Tim Dieppe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.